to get your fix. Are you ready? Are you ready to get your fix? Are you ready? Are you ready to get your fix? Are you ready? Are you ready to get your fix? Are you ready? Are you ready to get your fix? Are you ready? Are you ready to get your fix? Are you ready to get your fix?
With the Wicks here, and welcome to the show on this beautiful Monday, November 15th, 2021. Now, we have a lot to get to today because there was a bunch going on yesterday in the world of football, obviously with Sunday being a full slate of games. So we are going to get right to it, shall we? Are you ready to get your fix? So first things first, the Lions, the 0-8 Lions, go and take on, I can't remember their record off the top of my head. I think they're 5-4 at the time going into this game, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Game goes in overtime and ends with a final score of 16-16. Now, why the fuck are ties a thing? You know, it really, really bothers me that ties only occur in football. Baseball, they go into extra innings until the game is decided who's the fucking winner. All right, basketball, they go in overtime to see who is actually the fucking winner. Hockey, you go into overtime. If that doesn't work out, you go into a shootout to see who the fuck is the winner. But you get to a contact sport, which I'm not saying any other sport is not a contact sport, but one of the most known contact sports in North America, I should say, football, ends in a tie. I really don't know what to say, but other than it needs to go. They need to figure something out because who in their right mind decides, you know what, these two teams, I mean, they're so evenly matched, they just can't keep going and going and going, because what happens if we have 3 overtimes? What happens if, we lose star players? I mean, these teams have played really, really good football. Neither one can finish the other one off. I think it's time to call it. Let's just, it's a tie. No, nobody. Okay, even Najee Harris, I didn't even know a game could end in a tie. I hope that's not the truth, but if it is, because college you can't end in a tie at all. Find something different. Do something different instead of ending this game or ending any game in a tie, for that matter, because it screws with the rankings. It screws with everybody's, thinking, oh, who's in first actually, who's in second actually in this division, because you don't know because of that tie. Yeah, I understand you have the internet and stuff where you can go see the rankings and see where they actually placed, but when you want to just do it by yourself mentally, you're like, well, they got that tie, who'd they beat, and stuff like that. It's like, come on, end in a kickoff if you have to. If overtime doesn't work out, you have each kicker go every other turn, kick a field goal from the 20, 25-yard line, and keep going back and forth until someone misses, and then it's game over. You finally have a winner, and the rest is history. Don't understand it. I hope it gets changed eventually in the future. I doubt it will. I don't know. The NFL is so, they just got a big ego where they're not going to change anything unless they absolutely think it's going to be a huge change in the league, which that would be. Send them to a kickoff. Get these kickers actually making or being worth their money, getting more money in the future and stuff like that. Because then I think at that point you're like, okay, we have to have the best kicker in the league because he has to be able to make these, 3-4 field goals if we have to go into a shootout type thing. I don't know. I don't like ties. I hope you guys don't like ties either, because 16-16, somebody can win that game. The Lions were 0-8 going into this game. They had plenty of chances to end this game. They screwed up major. So did Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh really, really needed Big Ben in that game. They really couldn't get anything going. Mason Rudolph threw a ton. Really wasn't able to get the ball rolling in the right direction from the majority of the game. So it just sucks that game had to end in a tie. I wish it wasn't the case, but it is what it is. On a better note, though, the Minnesota Vikings end up pulling it off again in another close game. Now, 8 out of our 9 games this year, out of the 9 games that the Vikings have played, 8 of them, they have been a one-possession game, 7 or 8 points or less, basically. So That has got to change. I'm not 100% sure really why that might be the case, but I do have a feeling it's obviously because of the offensive play calling, where you go out, first possession you do really, really well. Next possession it's kind of, all right, we got to figure out what works best against this defense because now things have changed. But the Vikings got it done, okay, in a big, big way. It's 27-17 at one point. They let the Chargers kick a field goal. It's 27-20. We can't get anything going. The Chargers get the ball back, we get the ball back. 4th and 2. Okay, really don't know what to do at this point. Do you kick the field goal? Do you cause a delay of game, punt it so that they might have a chance to tie the game? No, you know what Zimmer does? He says, fuck it, let's go for 2. End up converting barely by at least a yard or whatever. Dalvin Cook gets that first down to really solidify the game win for the Minnesota Vikings, who are now sitting at 4-5 on the season, where the Chargers are sitting at 5-4. Now, Kirk Cousins played phenomenal. And I guess, so I went and looked at his stats to see what he's looking like touchdown-interception ratio-wise. Well, this year, I believe this is still counting this game, Kirk Cousins has 18 touchdowns with over 2,400 yards passing and only 2 interceptions. So Joe asked, do you think the Vikings have a chance? And now if you're talking about the playoffs, I do think there's a legitimate chance there. I mean, we're only 9 games in the season at this point. We have 8 more to play. That means we could finish at best case scenario, we're looking at 12-5, or not 12-5, excuse me. It would be 12-5. That'd be 17. Had to do the math real quick. So that'd be pretty solid for the Vikings. That might be a potential division winner. That might be a potential playoff berth. If that, I guess 12-5 would be pretty solid. I mean, they would definitely go to the playoffs if they did that. But right now, I think they have a good chance. They're hanging there with teams, 1 possession games, 8 out of the 9 times. I mean, the one time that it wasn't is when we beat the shit out of the Seattle Seahawks with Russell Wilson and stuff. So Minnesota Vikings are a decent football team. We just got to clean up the offensive playbook or play calling a little bit, and we'll be just fine. But Eric Kendricks on that defense is looking like he might possibly be one of, if not the best coverage linebackers in all of the NFL. This guy is a freak. I mean, he has wide receiver hands at the linebacker position, and that's what we need. We've seen that his entire career here in Minnesota, and he's just continuing to do that. He did it against the Chargers where he dove for one, somehow ended up in his hands. Awesome for him. He's playing lights out football, always has. He always gets fucking, how do you want to say it, underrated, I guess, in Madden, where they put him at he's only an 82 overall. No, this man's probably a 95. I know that's irrelevant to real life football, but this man is fucking insane, and he has been a staple in that Minnesota Vikings defense for quite some time. Both him and Harrison Smith, when Anthony Barr's out there healthy, they have the pieces to make things happen. They're getting Patrick Peterson back, I believe, against the Packers next week. But Kirk Cousins is playing really good football as well. He went 25-37 last night, 294, had 2 tutties. And Cook, 94 yards and a touchdown. That looked pretty solid. Now, Justin Jefferson looking like a stud wide receiver, as always. Came out last year, had 1,400 plus yards, or 1,400 exact, I believe. And this year, he's just continuing to roll. Last night, he had 9 catches, 143 yards receiving. No touchdown, but that's okay. The Minnesota Vikings hold on and stop that Chargers run game. Get the dub here against the Chargers, 27-20. Now, another game, the Cowboys, after getting dog shit on, or pretty much getting the shit beat out of them by the Denver Broncos, 30-16. They come out against the Atlanta Falcons and say, you know what? Let's go a good 10 rounds here. Well, they didn't. They probably the Atlanta Falcons would have lasted 3 rounds, basically, because the Cowboys beat the shit out of them, 43-30. Cowboys bounced back in a big, big game. Atlanta's offense just really couldn't figure out anything, or couldn't get anything going. Matt Ryan was only 9 for 21, 117 yards, 2 picks in the game. Didn't look solid, but Dak Prescott picked it up pretty majorly, I guess, or a pretty solid performance by Dak. 24-31, 296, 2 tutties. CeeDee Lamb played phenomenal for them as well. He had the 2 touchdown catches that came from Dak Prescott for 94 yards as well. Now the Cowboys bounced to 7-2. They come off that loss from the Broncos that put them at 7-1 on the season. Or they might be 8-2 after that one. I gotta go back and check. But it is what it is. The Cowboys did a really phenomenal job. I didn't think it was gonna be this big of a blowout. I thought it was gonna be a little closer with the Atlanta Falcons starting to figure out, their offense with Cordero Patterson and Mike Davis in their backfield. Kyle Pitts as their tight end. But it sucks that they're out. Calvin Ridley, obviously, he's out with a little bit of a mental rest, if you will, and some personal issues that he's dealing with. So if they had him in the mix, I think this game would have been a little bit closer. But Cowboys bounced back big time. Now, another game that kind of surprised me, and actually surprised probably Y4 and Logan, guest host on Fantasy Football Friday. John's been with me on some Thursdays and some other days as well. But we all picked the Cleveland Browns to win, right? Well, they didn't. The Patriots went out there and decided that it was going to be their game from the start to the finish. New England Patriots beat the crap, all right, out of the Cleveland Browns 45-7. Now, the Patriots are on a 4-game win streak at the moment. They started 2-4 on the season. Now they're sitting at 6-4. Okay, they had to literally. This game was so just out of proportion, out of whack. Like, you knew the Patriots were gonna win from probably halftime, basically, or maybe the first 5 minutes from into the third quarter. You knew the Patriots were going to win. And literally, Fox or CBS, can't remember what channel it was on, had to switch broadcasts to a different game that was a little bit closer, that was a little bit more intriguing for fans around the world to kind of watch because, listen, New England beat the shit out of the Cleveland Browns yesterday. They did very, very well. Baker Mayfield and that Browns offense couldn't figure out anything. The run game was a little bit better than the pass game where Baker only went 11 for 21, 73 yards, had a touchdown, had an interception. But Dearness Johnson, I'm really, really impressed with this guy. I believe he has the probability and the possibility of being a starting running back in the NFL. I really do believe he needs to have that shot, especially with Nick Chubb being out. He's really getting to show his true colors, with the Kareem Hunt being a little limited, or I think he's still out. He might be coming back here in the next week or two. But Dearness Johnson, 19 rushes, 99 yards, only had 1 fumble, but he also caught the ball 7 times for 58 yards, in which he was the Cleveland Browns' leading receiver. Okay? The Patriots, last year we watched them get 3rd in their division, I believe 7-9 on the year. They're looking at a potential division battle for the number 1 spot against the Buffalo Bills. That's how good this Patriots team has become. They spent a shitload of money in free agency. Went out, got Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. The Patriots want to win. Okay, Bill Belichick's probably getting towards the end of his coaching career. Who knows how much longer he's going to continue to, coach for the New England Patriots or in the NFL, let alone. So, I mean, Mac Jones, he's the real deal. A lot of people are saying, oh, he should have been the first quarterback selected in the draft. He should have been this, should have been that. As much as I want to believe that, at the same time, I think, it matters where you're drafted as well. Okay, as a person, it depends on your personality, who you fit well with, the chemistry is going to be made well with, or how the chemistry is going to be affected, where you go and stuff like that. I think Mac Jones, just the way, he even had the Bill Belichick strut coming out in the draft. You know what I'm talking about? He even has that Bill Belichick type press conference sometimes, and I think those two were a match made in heaven, if you will, because Mac Jones is playing out of his mind football really, really well, looking like a really good draft pick and looking like the next potential Tom Brady. I'm not saying as good as Tom Brady, but the potential 20-year franchise quarterback, going to be there for a long time type a guy. And that's what Mac Jones is. He is Mac Jones. Last night, or against the Cleveland Browns yesterday, he went 19 for 23, so not many passes, 198 yards, 3 touchdowns. But Ramondre Stevenson had to pick up in a big, big way. They were out one of their running backs. James White's hurt, so he went out, rushed for 20 times, and had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Patriots absolutely demolished the Cleveland Browns. Makes you kind of think, what's going on with the Cleveland Browns? Because I heard that Jarvis Landry said, hey, handle your business. We'll see you in the Super Bowl, to OBJ. They got some ground to fucking pick up a little bit. They got to keep going. They got to find a way to win. They got to find a way to get that noise out of there. OBJ's out of the building. Things should be clicking a little bit better. But at the same time, without Kareem Hunt, without Nick Chubb, things are going to be a little different. I think you need those two to really take the pressure off of Baker so that Baker can really, get his, mojo going, getting that quarterback mode, that function where he's going to make the right choices, the smart choices, and he's going to throw for 200-plus passing yards a game and have 2-3 touchdowns a game. Maybe an interception, maybe not. I think you really need to figure that out, and I think Cleveland knows that. And they need that 1-2 punch in that backfield, like I said, with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt to do something. But Patriots, hey, they're looking pretty solid this year. Who knows? They could make a playoff run. AFC's kind of, it's a little loose right now. There's always switches happening. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs, in which we'll get to in a bit, they're back at number 1. So anything can really happen if they continue to play like they have been. So another game, okay, that was just a blowout. And I told you guys, I said on Fantasy Football Friday, I said, hey, if you guys have any of the Bills players, that means Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, Emmanuel Sanders, anybody, if you had them, I said start them, right? Because there was no way in hell the Bills were going to go out there, lose 9-6 in a 5-field-goal game to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the next week after that come and cold play against the New York Jets and get beat again. No, there's no fucking way that's going to happen. This is a Super Bowl ready team. This is a team that has been waiting for their chance. Went to the AFC Championship last game, missed their opportunity, but they are back with a vengeance. They came back this week and said, you know what? We are way better than the team we beat last week. We are way better than the team we're playing this week. Absolutely dominated against the Jets. 45-17 was the final score after, like I said, that 9-6 loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They absolutely dominated the New York Jets. Mike White struggled, had 4 interceptions during the game, only had 251 yards, so not bad. He was able to move the ball, but when it came down to the nitty-gritty stuff, he just couldn't figure it out, couldn't capitalize. The Bills moved to 6-3 on the year, where the Patriots now are 6-4, I believe. So that has the Bills above them because they have less losses, obviously, so a better win percentage for the Bills. But that division's right there. I mean, it's deadlocked. It's Bills, Patriots. Who's going to take it? Because the Jets suck and the Dolphins suck. Plain and simple. That's how it is. Except, I mean, the Dolphins did beat the Ravens. But Bills, Josh Allen, 21 of 28 passing, 366 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Played phenomenal. Diggs, another stellar performance. He's been kind of quiet this whole season, but against the Jets, I told you, if you had him, start him. You should have. If you didn't, that's on you. 8 catches, 162 yards, and a touchdown. Absolutely balled out. The Bills also had 4 total rushing touchdowns from Devin Singletary, Matt Breida, Zach Moss, and Isaiah McKenzie. So like I said, if you didn't start him, you should have started every single Bills player you had either on your lineup or on your bench. Just plain and simple, you should have done it. If you didn't, I told you so. But the Bills dominated, moved to 6-3 on the season after a 45-17 win to the Buffalo Bills. Now on a little Debbie Downer note, the guy right there, I'm pointing my thumb to, the guy right there, Brady. Well, he struggled yesterday. He struggled in a big way. Ends up losing to the Washington football team 29-19. Absolutely had, he couldn't get anything going. All right off the bat, he basically goes 2 interceptions. And since that point, Tampa really couldn't get anything going. They couldn't get that momentum back on their side. Even with, and this is some unfortunate news, Chase Young tearing his ACL. That's he's out for the season. Going to have to look forward to the next year. But even with that happening, you'd think momentum would sort of shift to Tampa Bay a little bit, where Washington would be all like, uh-oh, what do we got to do? We have to put this guy in who's barely played any snaps. This might be a disastrous kind of moment for him. And it wasn't. Tampa couldn't get anything going. None of them were on the same page. I think Brady was trying to call plays, and they were hearing one thing, doing another. None of them were on the same page at all. Running game wasn't there. Brady in the game, 23 of 34, 220 yards passing, 2 tutties, 2 interceptions. They tried coming back in the end, but ultimately Washington and Taylor Heineke held him off. Heineke played really, really well, balled out, and this time got the edge over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where they lost to him in the playoffs last year, and did really, really well. The one thing that really made this game turn out the way it was the turnovers. Plain and simple, Tampa Bay, as soon as Brady threw those 2 interceptions, they were just confused. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to handle themselves. They were just kind of all over the place, and Washington really just kind of held on to that lead and never let it slip away from their grasp. And kind of, you had that feeling until about the last 5 minutes of the game, where you thought Tampa Bay was going to start coming back and getting that, make that comeback, make that Brady comeback, but it really wasn't the case. Washington played really, really well. Their front five on their offensive line played solid football. Their defensive front played awesome. Linebackers, like the whole team just bought into beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and to getting revenge of what happened in the playoffs last year. And they played really well football, or played really well. They played really good football. So Washington football team gets the win, 29-19 over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers moved to 6-3 on the season, where the Washington football team moves to 3-6. And on another sad note, not really a sad note, but I think it is safe to say the Arizona Cardinals need their stars in a big way. Yesterday, we got to see them go out against the Carolina Panthers, and for those of you that I'm sure everybody out there who's watching this knows, Cam Newton's now a Carolina Panther, didn't get the start, right? But he gets a chance right off the first drive. It's a 2-yard run. He goes out to the right side and touchdown. He takes his helmet off, gets an unsportsmanlike conduct for that, and says, "I'm back." Does that whole spiel. The Cardinals are like, shit, all right, let's fucking figure out a way to do our score, move down the field. Couldn't do it. Goes back down the field. The Panthers march back down the field. They're on the 2-yard line. Cam Newton's in the formation. He's at the quarterback. Takes the snap, drops back, pass to Robbie Anderson. Touchdown. Cam Newton starts the day off with 2 touchdowns, a 14-0 lead over the Arizona Cardinals. Since that point, Arizona could not get anything going. Their quarterback really couldn't do anything at all. Colt McCoy had to play. He ended up going to the locker room, coming back, I believe. It was just an all-out mess for the Arizona Cardinals. They couldn't figure out anything. They couldn't do anything. Okay, Kyler Murray needs to be there. He's a big game changer, and I think we all know that, especially after watching last week. And DeAndre Hopkins is an even bigger game changer. He's dealing with a hamstring issue. Hopefully, he's going to be coming back in the next couple weeks. But the Carolina Panthers steamrolled the Arizona Cardinals 34-10. I mean, you don't see that every day. But like the past 2 or 3 weeks, that's what the NFL's been. Just a bunch of like, oh, how the fuck did that happen type games. You know what I'm saying? So like, you think someone's going to win, and that's just not the case. Carolina's playing good football, but so is Arizona recently. And basically, I think the reason, and the only reason Arizona lost this game is because they need their stars like Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, J.J. Watt back in the mix and stuff like that. And they got exposed when those guys aren't healthy, and they got exposed in a big way, losing to the Carolina Panthers 34-10. Now, the Cardinals moved to 8-2. They're still, obviously the front runner or one of the front runners in the NFC, where the Carolina Panthers moved to 5-5 and have a good enough chance or a solid chance to put up a fight for the division against the Bucs, Saints, and Falcons. The Falcons might be on a little bit of a downslide or a downslope, especially with Cam Newton getting the start, or hopefully going to get the start next week. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of goes about. But like I said, I think it's safe to say Arizona really needs their stars in a big way because they missed them. They lost big time. Another blowout. This one's kind of a little bit of it leaves a bitter taste for Seattle Seahawks fans in their mouth a little bit. But for any Aaron Rodgers fan, for any Green Bay Packer fan, this was like when you go outside and you have a nice ice cold glass of lemonade, sit down and cross your legs and just sip, and you're like, ah. That's what it felt like for all those Green Bay Packer fans, all those Aaron Rodgers fans out there when Aaron Rodgers was activated by 3 o'clock on Saturday and it was announced he was going to get the start against the Seattle Seahawks. Who would have thunk? Well, actually, everybody thunk. As soon as, this guy didn't even have to practice in training camp, didn't have to do any of that before the season, comes out, obviously loses 38-3, but then they go on that 7-game win streak. It's how you do and keep it moving. It gets COVID. Jordan Love goes out there, has kind of a shitty, not that great of game against the Chiefs, lose 13-7. Aaron Rodgers comes back on a Saturday. He's going to get the start because he doesn't need, really any practice. He was doing it on his own. He knows the playbook. He knows the system. Put him in there. That's what they did. Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks get shut out 17-0, and this is the first time in 150 games or 150 starts, okay, that he hasn't been shut out. Never been shut out in 150 starts, and the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau in the frozen tundra. Just like Toyota. Like me and John have a little joke. He just got a new vehicle, nice Toyota over there. But back to this. Game, they couldn't stop the run at all. They couldn't stop the run to save their lives. Go on to the next game or the next season. They figured out how to slow down the run a little bit. Now they're equal on the run and pass game. They could do a little bit of better work on each side of the ball like that. Or how do I want to say that? They could do a little bit better stopping the run, stopping the pass. So then they come to this year. Draft Eric Stokes, who, by the way, is a fucking stud and animal. He is hurt, I believe. He might have played last night, I think. Jareer Alexander still hasn't come back. But the reason I say this defense is just crazy. Like, absolutely crazy, because at the beginning of the year, you were kind of, I mean, they're all right. They're not the greatest. In the last 3 weeks, you've really got to see the Green Bay Packers defense really come to fruition, really play really, really nice football. And it says, I got a little stat for you from @Field8 on Twitter. It says opposing quarterbacks, when targeting wide receivers against the Packers this season, have a completion percentage of 56%, last in the NFL. Yards per attempt is at 6.7, which is 31st in the NFL, and have 10 interceptions, which is tied for second most in the NFL. And by the way, All-Pro cornerback Jareer Alexander has been out since week 4. The Green Bay Packers defense is the real deal. They are the real deal. This is a very, very good football team. Without Aaron, it's a little rusty because that defense is still really good. That offense, on the other hand, isn't that great. Okay, Jordan Love is just not ready for NFL action to be an NFL starter in this league. He's not, and we've all seen that. He has a chance. He has the possibility of doing it down the road, but at this moment in time, it's not. It's Aaron Rodgers' team. He needs to be there for the Green Bay Packers in a big way because they probably beat the Chiefs like we already talked about last week in that game. 13-7, probably should have been 20-13 or 21-13, stuff like that. And they come out here against a pretty solid Seattle Seahawks team with Russell Wilson back in the mix. He spent like 19 hours a day, he said, or 16 hours a day just working on his thumb. Don't know if that's healthy for his sleep-wise, but I mean, it is what it is. We've all stayed up and had our whatever, or saying kumbaya all those times and had those long hours. But they come out there, they shut out Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks. 17-0. Green Bay gets a huge, huge win. Russell Wilson struggled. I think his thumb is still bothering him. There was a couple throws where you're like, did he just send a prayer, basically? I mean, there was just bombs being thrown in that game from both sides, really. And they both were really, really close. But just a big, or a game where Russell Wilson struggled against the Green Bay Packers and couldn't find a way to score. And they really tried that last possession, but Green Bay's defense is playing phenomenal football, and they're going to be a tough team to beat later down on the road, especially once they get healthy, once they get Jareer Alexander back, once they get Eric Stokes back, once that offense gets rolling a little bit better. Aaron Jones is now out, I believe, 1 to 2 weeks. It's probably going to be 3 weeks. He has an MCL sprain. A lot of people feared it was an ACL tear or an MCL tear, but it's only an MCL sprain. That's fucking tongue twisters. I'm saying fucking ACL, MCL, PCL, all these. But it's a sprain. Out 1 to 2 weeks, so he has the Minnesota Vikings. The Green Bay Packers play the Vikings next week. Then after that, I believe they play, I just checked it, the Broncos or Chiefs, one of the two. Not the Chiefs, they just play the Chiefs. But they play 2 games, and then they have a bye. So if about 2 weeks, he's going to have 3 weeks potentially to rest, and he's back in that 4th week right after the bye. And that means good news for Green Bay fans and the Green Bay organization, because A.J. Dillon's looking just fine out there. Aaron Rodgers can still sling the rock. So that offense is phenomenal. That defense is phenomenal. Green Bay just continues to roll and shuts out the Seattle Seahawks 17-0. Now, before we get to the Monday Night Football preview, let's talk about the Raiders, because they're in trouble, big time. Now, this is back-to-back weeks. I've had to pick against them in my week pick'ems or game picks, basically because of what they're dealing with. Okay, John Gruden's situation, Henry Ruggs' situation, Damon Arnett's situation. There's just a whole bunch going on that really affects the team, and I think you can see it as a whole. They're not playing really good football together. The chemistry's down. They're literally torn apart from what I can see and what I've noticed because they try as hard as they can to go out there and play football, but it's like all this stuff that's just been thrown at them recently and this whole entire year, it's a mess. How can you not think about, how can you not go in there and be like, well, are we playing for the right organization? Are we playing for the right reasons and stuff like this? And you're just getting all in your head and you can't really do much. The Raiders might go on a big losing streak. Okay, I don't really see this team flipping the switch back to, all right, we're all good, we're happy, we're playing good football, let's have this chemistry to get built back up, because I mean, man, it was just one thing after another for the Raiders, and they're struggling and they're in trouble big time. Like I said, they're gonna have a big losing streak. Chiefs absolutely dominated last night, beat them 41-14. Really had, I mean, the game was really done when it started, basically. And me and Y4 decided to pick the Chiefs, basically because the Raiders are just dealing with too much. Logan decided to go with the Raiders, thinking that, hey, maybe they have a chance where they can come together. They always beat the Chiefs at least one time during the season, which that was, an obvious good take, but it's going to take a while, I think, for this team to bounce back. And, I mean, they got exposed big time. I mean, they barely beat the Giants, or barely lost to the Giants, then come out against the Chiefs and just get shit on against a better team. And now, because of that, the Chiefs move into first place. The Raiders, I believe, move into third place. So I think it's Chiefs, Broncos, Raiders. No, Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders, Broncos, I believe. Not 100% sure. I'd have to go look at it. But Mahomes became only the third quarterback in the NFL with Dan Marino, Peyton Manning, and there was one more name. It's a bigger name. Forgot about it. But to have over 400 plus passing yards plus and 5 touchdowns in 3 games in his career, or 3 or 5 games in his career, something like that. Only one of 3 quarterbacks to ever do that last night. 35 of 50, 406 yards, 5 tutties. You really couldn't stop that Chiefs offense last night. Lost my fantasy game in the Get Your Fix Fantasy Football League against fucking Logan because Mahomes decides to drop back and just throw a 30-yard bomb to Darrell Williams, their running back, which Logan had both Patrick Mahomes and Williams in his lineup, and he had 3 Chiefs, and they needed to average 29 points. Well, because of that, they all averaged 29 points. I end up losing, but that is what it is. But Derek Carr is still playing good football as well for the Raiders. Raiders are in trouble, but Derek Carr seems to be that little twinkle in the eye, that little smile, that little smirk, because he seems to be the only thing that's really working for the Las Vegas Raiders. And obviously he touched the ball every play and blah, blah, blah. But, 25 of 35 last night, 261 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Not bad football. Okay, Derek Carr is a legitimate starting quarterback in this league. I think the Raiders probably, hopefully, stick with him. I think they need to at this point because he seems to be the glue really holding the ship together over there for the Las Vegas Raiders, and he's a man of God and all this. So I think you need to keep Derek Carr, and he's balling out. He's doing whatever he can and to the best of his ability to try to make the Raiders season a little bit, or look a little bit brighter than what it's going to turn out to be. But it is what it is. Yesterday we were blessed with a massive Sunday football lineup. It was a good overall Sunday of watching football. I hope Y4's concert went really well. I think Iowa City really loved him. I've seen some snaps, seen some pictures. It looked awesome. So hope that went fantastic. Now the next one up is Logan's. He has a concert December 4th, I believe, for Dizzy Wright up in Minneapolis. So if you want to, you can go hit him up on his Dynamite ENT on Instagram, or Logan Baumgar, whatever you want to do. You can get your tickets there or from him. So anyways, let's get to that tonight's Monday Night Football preview, where we have the Los Angeles Rams taking on the San Francisco 49ers. The Rams are sitting at 7-2. The Niners are sitting at 3-5. All three of me, John, and Logan all decided that, hey, the Rams are going to win this one. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I think they will. Now, it's going to be a little closer game, I believe, because on the exact same day that OBJ had signed with the Rams, they lost wide receiver Robert Woods to a torn ACL in practice, which only excelled OBJ's chances to start. But tonight, the Los Angeles Rams have both Von Miller and OBJ making their Ram debut. I think that's gonna be huge for them. I think it's gonna be a big momentum shift, and I think Sean McVay has something in store to prove that he's a genius on why he took OBJ, why he took or traded for Von Miller. It's going to be a fun matchup. I really don't know what else to say besides expect an offensive how do you want to say it, fucking shootout. I think the Rams offense gets going fast. I mean, Cooper Kupp, OBJ, Darrell Henderson in the backfield, Tyler Higbee at tight end, Matthew Stafford's throwing the ball. What better can you get? But on the 49ers side of things, I mean, you got George Kittle's back in the mix, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk I think might be back in the mix. The running backs, not the greatest, but neither are the Rams. Darrell Henderson is a little bit bigger, prominent figure for the Los Angeles Rams. But this is going to be a fun one. Tonight, the Manning cast is back on ESPN2. If you don't want to watch that, the regular one is on just regular ESPN. But they have 4 guests. Their guests are going to be Al Michaels, Phil Mickelson, Draymond Green, and Phillip Rivers. So that's a big lineup. I'm excited to start watching it. The game does start at 7:20, so in about 40 minutes it'll get underway. But that is going to do it for the show today. We had a lot to get to in a short amount of time. Want to get ready for this Monday Night Football matchup. Hopefully the record stays where it is and only continues to get better. But go have a great rest of your evening. Go watch the Monday Night Football matchup between the Los Angeles Rams and the San Francisco 49ers. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central Time, like always. And you just got your fix with the Wicks. Have a great one, and Toyota.